If I told you that the secret to future-proofing your business wasn't found in a Silicon Valley seminar or like a sterile classroom, but in a salt marsh, would you think I finally dug myself too deep into my eco-curious rabbit hole? We spend so much time trying to solve our outside problems from inside our various boxes, offices, boardrooms with harsh, fluorescent, migraine-inducing lighting, trying to figure out how to ignite systematic change. But maybe the answer doesn't actually lie in those boardrooms. It lies in the wildflower meadows and the ancient woodlands, where we can actually hear ourselves think. What happens when you flip the script on business as usual and trade apathy for agency, one solar-powered base camp at a time? That's what we're talking about today on Environmental with Dandelion. If this is your first time tuning in, hi, hello, I'm Ob, your host and the chief cultivator here at Dandelion Branding, where I am on a mission to bring sustainability into mainstream conversations. The Dandelion team and I help brands fueling that transition tell their stories with really great content that isn't the useless AI slop filling your feeds right now. And here on Environmental, I'm keeping you up to date on the sustainability stories you don't want to miss. So do not forget to drop a thumbs up if you're into it. You eco-curious baddie, you. My guest today is Adrian Ferraro, the director of the Bioasis. Yeah. The Bioasis is a 1,200-acre wild space of those wildflower meadows and ancient woodlands and sparkling rivers, all designed specifically to give you the time and space to think differently about our future. They rewild educational outcomes for schools and build resilience for planet-positive behavioral change in business leaders. I'm actually so excited because they take teams out of the office and into a stunning off-grid, phone-free landscape to reconnect with nature, learn the art of active hope, and rediscover our capacity to spark meaningful change. Adrian, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here and just generally for everything you do. Can you please tell us what you think is the number one thing to know about stepping away from the boardroom and into the Bioasis?
Sure, yeah. Thanks, Or. Thanks so much for having me on as well. Yeah, so I think we all intuitively know deep down that nature is good for us, and that sense of calm and time and space and perspective that even just going out for a walk in your local woodlands or the park, gives you. Taking that and putting it on steroids and saying, okay, let's go big on this and take school groups away, like you said, or business teams and walk them an hour into an incredibly diverse, nature-rich place, the Bioasis. And it's becoming more important in my view. Mental health challenges at work, huge. There's just been some new data out from HSE saying nearly 1 million people were affected by, stress, burnout, mental health issues at work. And it is costing UK companies billions in lost time off work, productivity losses and such like. And you mentioned your intro there that, the stale environment of an office, even if you've got a super swanky, new office with slides and waterfalls and all the rest of it, you're still in ultimately a box that has got straight lines and limited green space and limited nature to it. There is a lot of scientific evidence out there to say we are more creative, more innovative just by stepping outside and going for a walk. Don't even have to go for a walk in nature. Just going for a walk sparks innovation and creative thinking. Similarly, nature does exactly the same for you. And so we curate that, I suppose, and take business teams out into this off-grid, nature-rich environment and effectively enforce the time and space away from all of the distractions of our busy lives, phones, Slack messages, emails, that person, even if you're in an enclosed office, just you, that person knocking on the door, have you got a minute? The time for deep thinking is so squashed and squeezed, in our everyday working environment. And if we are to really allow the time and space to think properly about some of these massive challenges that are coming at us as society, as business, climate crisis, biodiversity crisis, mental health crisis, will your business still be relevant in 5 years' time, or will society have shifted, or climate change affected your particular niche area in such a way that, you're just not relevant anymore? If you want to start tackling some of that and building resilience into your team and you as an individual and your business, then you need some proper space and time to think about that and get some perspective. And so we facilitate that through off-grid, nature-based retreats, corporate away days. We do the same for education and school groups, connecting all those dots with what they learn in the classroom and trying to tie it all together. And I think actually there's not that much difference in some ways between what we do for schools and businesses. And that joining the dots, in a school, we're taught history separate from geography, separate from, politics, separate from maths. Whereas the world is messy. It's not all separate. Everything is joined up. Everything is interconnected. And you can see that when you're out in nature and see how, from a business perspective, okay, well, how is your supply chain affecting nature, and how is that affecting the economy, and how is that affecting your mental health and productivity of your team? All of these things are totally interconnected unless you actually take a step back and go, okay, let me just seep into you and begin to understand and connect the dots, I think. So that's what we facilitate, essentially.
I love that. You said that you see a lot of people that, there's been a huge uptick in like burnout. Do you see a lot of that, or are you seeing like teams coming and saying, we have a lot of work, I'm feeling burnt out? Because burnout does from overwork, but it also comes from work that doesn't align with what you do and what you love and what you care about. Do you see a lot of that, or do you see a lot of people who are trying to prevent that, or is it a mix?
Yeah, I see it in every day, not just in work, going down the pub with friends or talking to people over dinner. Society is getting faster and faster, and, we are business and us as individuals are being thrown curveball after curveball. What are we now? 5th of January, 5 days into the year. I just mentioned Trump and Venezuela. And, sorry to bring down to things, but, the sustainable transition is going to be messy. And it's not going to be a smooth ride. So on an individual basis and on a team basis, we need to be resilient to those changes and to, being able to pivot. And, I tell my boys, I've got 2 boys, they're 23 and 20. And I say, you're going to be growing up in a world where things can change really quickly, and don't hold things too close. You have to be comfortable with pivoting. You have to be agile. And that goes the same for business and business teams. And, you could work for 10 years in your business and suddenly find overnight that, the landscape has shifted and you need to switch really quickly.
Yeah.
And I think part of what we do is around certainly mental health and just giving people that time and the space. But it's also about building resilience in people. It's taking people outside of their comfort zones, challenging them, bringing them together as a team, and getting them to realize, actually a shared adventure together. We've learned things about one another here. And we've learned things about ourselves that made us realize we are more resilient than we thought we were. And that's going to be, in my view anyway, a really critical skill and ability for individuals and teams going forward into the transition.
Totally, definitely. And I really appreciate that you saying that the sustainable transition is messy, because it is. It's I talk about this a lot on the show and with other guests as well, that like we have to change every part of our infrastructure, and we have to change all of the ways that we were taught to think for generations. Yeah, that's messy. Like there's not a line
No.
that, and I think that there's a lot of black and white thinking in the world too. And I feel like maybe that comes from, as you're saying, straight lines and boxes, because I definitely see what you mean. Like you go take a step outside and there are no straight lines. That isn't how, or if it is, it's novel in and of itself.
I think a lot of people know that it's going to be messy, and there's comfort from those straight lines and comfort from feeling, well, this is how it has been for a long time, and engaging and actually going for, maybe it's not going to be a clear cut and a straight line. That's quite destabilizing and quite creates a lot of uncertainty. Absolutely. I think we just need to get used to uncertainty. And unless you're resilient and, agile and innovative, uncertainty is a horrible thing, and we've grown up in a society where for the last 30, 40 years, we can be pretty certain about what is going to happen. It's been very stable, very calm, and we've got a whole generation of people in the working environment that are used to that. And business as normal, well, I don't think business as normal is going to continue for much beyond the next few years. How many years, I don't know, but
no.
I used to say 10 years, and then last year I was saying 5 years, and then we're only, say, 5 days into January, and I'm thinking maybe 2027.
Yeah, maybe this is the year. I don't know. Somebody said to me the other day, like, we have only been using AI really for like 18 months. And it is such a profound shift so fast. As just one example, I'm in marketing, and AI has just run over a lot of what's going on in the digital world. So as you say, we have to pivot, and we have to make sure that, like, how do we stay relevant? And now somehow being human made is a competitive edge. And that is an unthinkable thing for me 3 years ago.
What we're doing is, for businesses, is saying, okay, well, if you recognize that actually to survive and thrive in this world, you have to be really innovative and agile and communicate really well as a team and be resilient. The best place to learn how to do that is not in a box. It's outside in nature. It's surrounded by canoes and paddles, and getting involved in conservation work and making the connections between your supply chain and where you get your materials from, and taking plastic out of LSI site in nature that has got rubbish from it from 30 years ago. And giving yourself the space to think. A junior colleague walking alongside a director of a business through ancient woodland, having a chat about work. That's when the best ideas come. It's not 100%. Sitting around the boardroom.
100%. Because like even as a founder, I'm so close to it, and I'm so in it, and I know it so deeply, that having somebody like that isn't part of it, that's just asking questions, like a junior team member, why are we doing it that way? Why do we do this? Or where did that idea come from? Those types of questions make such a huge difference in your growth. And they don't come from the people you're surrounded by every single day. They come from the junior executive, the person in a different industry, the other part of your supply chain. I love that. It is time for my favorite part of this show. Okay. But before we do that, just a reminder here that climate content is very often censored on these channels. So the growth of these stories is totally and completely people powered, which is like such a good part of this conversation, right? So if you're not already subscribed, please hit that button, because honestly, I'm on the road to 500 subscribers, and I would love to see you here again. Thank you so much. And now let's get back to it. Adrian, what is the role that you play and Bioasis plays in the transition to a more sustainable future?
Yeah, we've touched on this a little bit, but I think the main thing for us is to help businesses learn how to use nature as a strategic lever. And when I say a strategic lever, I mean a mechanism to improve their decision making, improve the morale and mental health of their team and their ability to communicate together, improve the culture of your organization. So corporate culture has fascinated me for a long time. If you took two companies, each with 20 employees, and one had a high staff turnover, and was, not really kind of powering ahead. And there was a bit of infighting, a bit of, moaning around the water cooler or, whatever. And another one that everybody was aligned on their vision, their purpose, supported one another. And it was just an absolute, perfect example of a high performance team. How do you create the latter of those two rather than get stuck in the former one? And I think particularly going into this climate crisis and this messy transition that we've been talking, it's really important that the culture of a company feels like they are all on the same wavelength. People want important, meaningful work. There was a study by Harvard Business Review, I think 2023, that said 9 out of 10 people would take a pay cut to do more meaningful work. So, doing meaningful work, and people are worried about the climate change. They don't know how to do it, and they need leadership from their organization on how that organization is going to tackle the climate crisis, biodiversity crisis, mental health crisis, all of that, Trump, all of that kind of crisis that are coming at us.
A crisis by himself.
Yeah. And to tackle that, you have to have purpose and vision, and know that the company you're working for or leading is actively being part of the solution rather than being part of the problem. Because I think over the next few years, 5-10 years, there will be a fairly rapid switch. At some point, we'll get to a tipping point, and society or employees will go, do you know what? I'm going to change my purchasing habits because of the climate crisis. I want to go and work for a company that is actually doing something meaningful here. And if you can create that culture where you've got a team of people who are actively engaged in a mission or a vision, that your company is bigger than the collective of all of the people in that organization, they feel like they are creating something really special and having that positive impact, then that company is more likely to thrive. They're going to come up with better ideas. They're going to have fewer staff turnover, which is a massive cost to business. So if you can attract and retain the best staff and be more agile and come up with better ideas, of course you're going to be, you're thriving, not just surviving. And so, for me, that is why we exist, to have that purpose in order to help those other companies try and achieve that. And that is, the ripple effects of what we do. We try and be really conscious about what we're doing with, getting food from Riverford Organic, using toilet paper that is made in the UK, unbleached, recycled paper. There's a whole range of stuff that we do. Coming to the Bioasis and going on a retreat is actually less carbon than if you'd stayed at home, even counting train and bus travel down to where we are. But what's really exciting for me is the wider ripple effect and the knock-on impact that we can have. So that's kind of where I see. I'd love to get to the stage of us having multiple sites around the UK, possibly into Europe, and business groups and schools coming to us and going, right, okay, I kind of half joke that we're a guerrilla rewilding training camp that sort of, reconnects people with nature and gets them thinking differently and therefore more innovative when they go back to the office. So I'd say that's our role in the transition.
Love it. I'm one of those people that you see walking alone. Well, my dog is there, but I'm walking alone talking to myself because actually I'm having a business meeting on my walk. So I feel like I 100% understand what you mean when you're talking about getting out and changing your perspective and looking at how things actually are. For me, that's what that walk is. I can sit in my office, I can make choices at a high level, but as soon as I step out, it feels like I understand things more tangibly somehow. I don't know why that is, but I can sort of see more of a forward ripple effect. So it's better for me to make decisions and then out there and then implement them in the computer here.
There's a lovely kind of quote that I'm probably going to completely bastardize it, but it goes something along the lines of, if you want to make small decisions should be made in the boardroom, medium-sized decisions should be made down the pub, and big life-changing, company-changing decisions should be made on the beach. Because it just gives us perspective, and physical distance gives us psychological distance from the decisions that we're making. And you make better decisions when you're not too close to the action.
And I think, on the beach, as you say, you're kind of aligned with yourself and not with your company. So it's more easy to align your company with yourself when you're not just trying to sit in front of your computer and get a client or make money or find a new group or something. You're out there going, no, I'm connected with my mission. I'm connecting with what I love in the world right now. And I want to bring that into what I'm doing in my company.
Absolutely.
And I feel like that is where, for me, where that shift makes a really big difference.
Yeah. Yeah. So some of the programs that we run, are whole company away days or retreats, but we also have, retreats just for C-suite level board people so that they can literally just get away from all of that constant distraction in emails, phone calls, Zoom calls, all the rest of it, and go, okay, as a leadership team, where are we going with this company? What are the risks? How are we going to remain resilient? And that needs time and space to think about it.
100%. You have to take that. You have to take the space, because otherwise you're stuck in this inertia of day to day. But in the C-suite world, like, you also have to make those movement decisions, because inertia is boring and it doesn't get us anywhere good. Clearly, we live in a world where, like, it's very clear that the inertia we've created doesn't get us anywhere good. The question that came to mind just now is, would it be like your business and my business and my neighbor runs a company, like we as the C-suites, we could all go together? Or is it typically one company in the whole group?
We do both or either. So we have some set weekends and some during the week, like retreats for business owners, a starter retreat, we call them, where business owners or entrepreneurs can come and join 15 to 18, 20 other business owners, get away from their own business and have that support network of people who understand what it is to run a business. And so they don't need to bring their team. They can just go as an individual or a couple business partners, etc. We do the same for sustainability professionals. So, that could be in-house sustainability professionals or freelance to, again, get away from the everyday, be surrounded by people who understand what it's like to work in sustainability and just get involved in conservation work. We do that with all our groups, actually, get involved in conservation work. And then we can take away a whole team. If you've got sort of 8 to 10 people or more, we can do a bespoke private trip. If you're a small team of 3, 4, 5, maybe working remotely from one another, you could join one of our set retreat dates and join with, a handful of other businesses. Yeah. So it's a bit of a mix of both.
Yeah. Because the idea is getting out there with the people who are going to make the biggest difference around you, or as you say. Yeah. Cool. And with schools, it's kind of the same thing. You take like a whole classroom or...
Yeah, we normally just do a group from one school rather than bring lots of children from different schools. So yeah, it could be a biology, environmental science A-level group that wants to do research and about ocean plastics or wildflower dispersions amongst the fields. All of our base camps have bat detectors, small mammal traps. Even with adult groups, we set out camera traps in the forest to see, check the animals. A lot of it is about just reconnecting people with nature. And it's amazing what impacts we have. We took a group of teachers away last summer on a retreat, and I don't really know any teachers, they're pretty broken these days. It's a pretty intense work. And within 20 minutes of us leaving vehicles and walking into the Bioasis, one of them was in floods of tears saying, I don't know how, I'm just ready to give up teaching. I've given all I can. I haven't got any more to give. And she was just broken. And about 48 hours later, when we walked back out of base camp, having done canoeing and field archery and, conservation work and all the rest of it, she gave me a big hug in floods of tears again and said, Adrian, you've completely changed my life. I realize now I don't need to leave teaching. I just need to change the way that I teach. And there's more that I have to give. And I know that young people need this type of experience. So we can have a pretty profound impact on people, which is wonderful. It's great.
It's what you do.
Yeah.
It's what you do.
Yeah.
It's incredible. And that was a great story. And I guess then that was a great story. What do you think is your storytelling secret? What would you...
I think partly trying to drill into that deep sense of longing that we all have, and that sense of calm. And if you're sitting in a woodland surrounded by bird song first thing in the morning and you're, doing a calm meditation, you begin to place yourself in the world and realize, actually, where do I fit into this, and how can I adjust my thinking, whether that's business thinking or personal thinking, into making those better decisions for the planet. On a fun level, the Bioasis, the story behind the Bioasis is that it's actually in a post-climate change apocalypse, and the Bioasis is somewhere that has survived the apocalypse, and teams are now being sent in to get reacquainted with nature and build their resilience, and then go back out into the real world to implement what they've learned. And so if you look at our website, you won't actually see any details of where the Bioasis is.
No, I noticed that. I was like, ooh.
Yeah, so officially it's classified.
It's like Area 13.
For our school groups and for some of our business groups as well, as part of the program, they get a mission briefing. So it's a bit like escape room meets outdoor education or outdoor learning, and they have to decipher mission critical information in order to find various documents online. Once they've found those 3 documents, which is like radio communications guide, because we don't allow any mobile phones, like you said, we use push to talk radios. So they've got to find their radio communications guide, they've got to find their kit list, they've got to find their mission briefing, find all 3 documents, and they will find a coded message as to where they're going to go. So
that's so much fun. That is so much fun.
It's quite playful. It's good. I think people learn more when they're at play, and it's fun. And so we started out doing schools in the pandemic. As I said, it was pandemic pivot. But having branched into corporates now, we can do that for corporates as well.
It's really fun. I have dreams about the post-apocalyptic climate change world, and it's kind of like, I do. It's kind of like that. But yeah, about like being in a tribe or in a group of people that survived, and then you have to like venture out to find what's out there. And
there's a really good book. I think it's called End of the World Running Club. It's not about climate change, but it's about the world having a massive meteorite, hitting the world. And I think the descriptions of tribes starting to create and, being very protective of what they've got. And it's quite similar to what you're saying.
Yeah, it's I feel like that's a whole genre, is the post-apocalyptic world, like past the Mad Max blood and mothers, tears and gasoline.
Yes.
Thing. Yeah, it's interesting and kind of scary.
But we're not there yet. So actually, the transition can make sure that we don't get there.
Exactly. We need to like do a better job. And there's so much hope. Honestly, there's so much hope. And there's people out there that are actively making a difference every single day. Probably we all just have nightmares about what the post-apocalyptics could actually look like. And we're like, we need to stop that from happening.
And I think one of your previous podcast interviewees, touched on this and didn't agree with everything he said. But I do think for-profits and business has to be part of the solution, and they are. We just need to, throw a better party than the others. And when it comes to businesses being, waking up to the risk and resilience aspect of sustainability, then we're going to start moving into the realm of businesses making better decisions because it is better for business. And that's starting now already.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think I'm seeing a lot of it. Yeah, a lot of people going, sustainability isn't just like hippie shit anymore. It's like good for business. It makes more sense. It's, doing less and spending less, but getting better quality in return. I mean, who really can argue with that?
Exactly.
I don't know about you, but I'm just about ready to just like leave and go on a walk. I want to go play outside. There's snow out there.
Yeah.
So before we sign off, how can people find you? How can they want to join an educational retreat or a mission, as you say?
Sure. So our website is www.thebioasis.com, and please have a friendly rummage around there. There's lots of good stuff on that. And you can find me, connect with me on LinkedIn, and there are links to social media side of things on the website too. But that'd be great.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Thank you for guiding people into the wilderness to like sort of get lost, but actually like fully get found.
Yeah, definitely.
We talk so much on this show about how there's design to fail and the importance of business and how our systems are like really engineered to keep us quiet. But I feel like what you designed with the Bioasis is like the way to win here. And if you are feeling that spark of agency in yourself right now, do not let that fade the moment you close the tab. Check the show notes because I linked the Bioasis programs for business leaders and for schools in the resource hub on my website. Plus, if you want to clear the noise from your marketing system, you can grab our Unfunk Your Marketing checklist, which will also be in the description. This is the first step to building a brand that is very resilient. And the second one would be to hang out with Adrian in the Bioasis. If you want more environmental, I will put an episode on the screen for you right now. Plus, please do not forget to subscribe and help reach a larger eco-curious audience. And I will see you next time.
Thanks.
Bye.